Hi, Worthington staff. Welcome to your TA and proctor training for the Ohio State Test, the Spring Administration 2021 Ohio State Testing. The difference between the TA and proctor, the TA is called the test administrator. They're the main person in charge of testing, and they're the ones that will be establishing the test session on the computer and running that. The proctor is the support person, the support adult. What do you need to do before administering the test? Well, you need to verify your TA user account. So you need to click on that link there. The Google Slides are available to you. Each year, the Department of Education wipes out all the accounts, so you need to create a new password. Listen, write that password down. The last thing you want on test day is to go to log in and you forget what your password is. So make sure you write it down. You have it somewhere handy so that you can log in on test day without any problems. You need to take a test administrator certification course. It will take you a half hour to do, so please block that time out here within the next week and get that done. After you do that, you need to click on this acknowledgement form right here, submit it to your building BTC. It basically says that you've done everything you need to do in order to prepare for this test. Between April 15th and 18th, you should review the test administration manual. That's a big document, so give it a little look. What's really important to you is Appendix L, especially if you are assigned to be a TA. Appendix L is going to be your script. So this is one that you're really going to want to review and make sure that you understand before test day. Our testing and bell schedule will look like this. We have testing starting April 19th. We will be testing ELA Part 1, and then Tuesday, Part 2 of ELA. Wednesday, we will be testing Math 1 and Math 2, both Part 1 and Part 2. On Thursday, Biology, Part 1 and Part 2. And then on Friday, History, Part 1 and 2, and Government, Part 1 and 2. As you can see, we have scheduled out an hour of an open lunch. So, our testing times, as you can see, we've designated, or we've designed, basically, 195 minutes for testing each day, right? We would like for you to get started with the actual testing. Your target time is to get started with the actual testing by 8 o'clock a.m. each day. So on Monday and Tuesday, the total testing time for standard testers is 120 minutes. So clearly, you're going to have some time left over before the 11 a.m. dismissal to lunch. However, on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, it's going to be a little bit different. If you start right at 8 a.m., you're going to end right at the conclusion of the scheduled testing time, so you're not going to have any time left over for testing. Now, we don't want you to rush testing. We don't want you to rush the start time, but we do want you to complete the pre-testing housekeeping items like, sitting students, collecting their cell phones, reading the instructions, getting attendance, getting them logged on. We want you to do that efficiently so that you're ready to go right at 8 a.m. or even a little bit before, especially on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, when we might be a little bit more strapped for time. If for some reason you get started late on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, and your test session is still going on past 11 o'clock, that's okay. Please continue the testing, obviously. At 11 o'clock, keep that test session open for students that are still working and however much time they need. Remember, we've scheduled an hour for an open lunch. So if you go 5, 10, 15 minutes into that 11 o'clock time, everything's going to be okay. The students, we need to make sure that they have that testing time. They've got plenty of time to eat lunch. Just reassure them everything will be fine. So when students do come into your room, mark students absent or present on both rosters. You'll have a test roster and an attendance office roster. There will be staff that will walk around and collect the attendance office roster. You just tape it to your door. If for some reason a student stops testing before they complete the test, that'll be okay. Just make sure that you mark how much time that they've already spent on the test and make sure you record that on your roster. We are collecting cell phones. Students may not use them or any electronic devices during testing. So please, collect them prior to testing and then return them when done with testing. So what we strongly recommend that you do is have Post-it notes, have the students write their name on the Post-it note and attach it to the cell phone. Keep all the cell phones on a clear table, nothing else on the table, with direct supervision of the proctor or TA. And then, very importantly, facilitate the return of cell phones when everyone is done testing. Don't just say testing's done, you can leave for the day, and have students pick up their cell phone and leave on the way out. Because whether intentionally or unintentionally, a student may grab someone else's cell phone. Then we're in a tough spot. So please make sure that you are facilitating that return of cell phones. Make sure that everyone has what they need in their own cell phone. Once that's done, then we can dismiss them for the day. So when the test is going on, as the TA, you have to be actively monitoring that test session. You know, you have to make sure that students are making some progress and that they're doing what they need to do. What are you not allowed to do? Well, you can't coach students. You can't explain passages or test items to them. You can't give them more time for testing. You can't encourage them to finish early. We don't want them talking. All the general basic stuff. Make sure that you are maintaining a safe and secure testing environment. You also cannot allow students to permit them to view test material at any other time than when the testing is happening. Obviously, they cannot copy test materials. If there's any sort of test breach, please make sure that you report that to your building test coordinator, either myself or the wonderful Zach Peterson over at Kilbourne. So the test administrator also needs to make sure that you can reread or clarify directions for students, right? You can redirect students to the test. So if a student is just kind of in la land, wandering around, hey, get back to testing, right? You can do that. Can students use scratch paper? Yes. Actually, it is required for us to provide it for them for the ELA test. That's Monday and Tuesday. We've got to provide them with 2 blank sheets. And the other days, it's optional. We need to have it prepared. If the student asks for it, we can give it to them. But we must do it for Monday and Tuesday ELA test. We also have math reference sheets that we're going to have available for all the students. Make sure that you collect those before you dismiss students from the testing room. So what student information is needed on the test day? Well, each student is going to have a test ticket. The wonderful Carl Fisher and Sarah Ruck at Thomas and the wonderful Jen Dominic at Kilbourne will be preparing these for all of our staff, and we will be giving it to our test administrators. So as a TA, you will receive a ticket for each student, right? And it's going to have this information on it that they will need in order to be able to log in. Now, there is timing with the online system, but it does not enforce a time limit. Basically, the clock runs for students on their little screen, but that clock is not necessarily accurate. It's very important that as the test administrator, you are maintaining the start and stop time and are communicating this to students. Okay, hey, let's say that a student needs a break during the test. They've got to use the restroom or whatever. That's fine. They can do that. I would only allow 1 student out at a time. Make sure that the student pauses their test. You need to explain to them, hey, your test time does not pause. You can pause the test, but your clock is still running, basically. So the student can go to the restroom, come back. Remember, we've got proctors assigned to each room. The assigned proctor or the assistant assigned to that room is the one that should be responsible for the student during the break. The TA needs to stay in the room with all the other students to make sure that the test is secured and all that. When the student comes back from break, all they need to do is go through the sign-in process again and pick up right where they left off. So what do you do if you have a student who has finished testing early? All right, so on Monday and Tuesday, we're only doing part 1. So once students are done with part 1, they're done, okay? On all the other days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if a student is done with part 1 and other students are not, that's okay. That student can then go on to part 2. They don't need to wait for everybody else. So you can self-pace through part 1 and part 2. Now, when done with part 2, students should submit their test and then they can turn in all their testing materials even if other students are still testing, right? They just need to hit submit. After a student has hit submit and they're done testing and it's 10 o'clock or 10:30, obviously the test session's not done yet, not done till 11, they need to stay in the room. They can work on other work. That's fine as long as it's not in that tested area. So during the history day, they can't pull out their U.S. history notes and try to study those. But they can certainly read a book. They can work on other things on Schoology that just are not related to that particular test. They should not have any access to their cell phones or any other electronic devices at that time. Once all students are finished testing and the testing session is over, then we can return our cell phones to the students just remind them, no posting about the test or anything like that. Okay, so if you have students with extended time, right? So this is not all groups will have students with extended time. You will know whether or not you have students with extended time or just standard time testers. And let's say that the testing session, the standard testing session is over, it's 11 o'clock, but the student still needs or still wants to use their extended time. They still want to keep testing. That's okay. Just make sure the student does not submit the test. They should just pause the test, simply close the Chromebook, return it to the proctor, put it in the Chromebook cart in that room. Now, we are going to move all students who want to use extended time to another room to continue with their test. So the TA or proctor should just tell the student where to go, walk them there. At Thomas, it's going to be in room 230. The new TA in this new test session, in this new room, will give them a new Chromebook, a new test session ID, and when a student logs in, they'll be able to pick up right where they left off. And we just need to communicate how much time that student has left to test between the adults. All right, so now, day of, we're just going to get into some quick day of items here. I'm just going to walk you through what it will look like when you are the test administrator on the day of. Again, you're going to be using Appendix L as your script. So it's something that you're going to want to review the night before, just so that you're familiar with it. So when you get to your classroom on the day of as the TA, you will be logging in to the TA user interface. Ahead of time, obviously, you're going to be, it will look like this. Now, you will have a test roster. You will be given student testing tickets. You will be given calculators on math day. You're going to be given copies of blank paper. We're going to give all this stuff to you. You have to pick it up. At Thomas, you'll do that in central office. It'll be in a folder, and then you can take it back to your room. We are telling students to be in their testing rooms by 7:45. So if you are a TA and it's test day for you, you're going to want to pick up your stuff probably around 7:15. That's going to give you enough time to get back to your room, get everything settled, make sure the Chromebooks are out, and you're ready to go when students are in there. So when you, what I would suggest is before students come into the room, get all their Chromebooks out of the Chromebook cart, set them on the desk, put the testing tickets down as well, open the Chromebooks up, and make sure that they can get into the testing portal. To do this, you just click on the little waffle icon. It's in the lower left-hand corner. It says Apps. And then you click on, it'll say Secure Testing Browser. And the next thing will come up will be what you see in the image number 2, Cambria Assessments. You just select the state and then the test, hit OK, and then it should look like what you see in image number 3 where it's a student sign-in page. If you can't get to that on one of your computers, that's a problem. And you've got to communicate with central office or the building test coordinator as soon as possible so you can get a Chromebook in your room to replace that one that's going to work correctly, or get some help so we can get your Chromebook set up in the testing portal. So that's why I would suggest that you kind of get here a little bit early in your testing day and make sure that you can get all your Chromebooks in testing mode before the students get in the room, so we're ready to go when they are in the room. So, once students come in the room, you get them signed in, you're doing your attendance, you want to create or establish a test session. On test day, you're going to click on the T8 interface, right? Now, something to keep in mind, you can only establish a test session within 20 minutes of when students sign in. So if you do get here early, this is not going to be one of the first things you want to do like at 7:15 because, well, it's going to be past 20 minutes by the time students are logging in. You want to make sure that you select the appropriate tests. And again, the Appendix L will walk you all through this, and so will your practice session that you have to do. You want to create the session and then write the session ID on the whiteboard for the students to be able to clearly see. Then you are referring to the script. That's Appendix L. You're going to introduce students to the test administration. The Appendix L is going to take you through every step-by-step process, how students need to sign in and when. It will take you through how to approve students for testing, making sure that they are lined up with a certain test. In almost every testing room, all students are going to be taking, in almost every testing room, all students are going to be taking the same test. There are some exceptions to that. We have put some students who are going to take different tests in the same testing room, but that will be clearly communicated to you. All right, hey, text to speech. All right, so this is a universal feature, right, for everybody for the math science and social studies test, not ELA tests. This basically feature will read aloud the test to the students if they want it. They'll need to have headphones, earphones, earbuds, whatever you want to call them, if they want to use this. If they don't want to use it, when this feature pops up, it'll be really clear. And again, in Appendix L, it has images for you. All they have to do, all the students do, is hit back, and then that will disable it for them. When students are taking the test, well, okay, not quite yet. We're still on step 7, reviewing the test instructions, help information. We want to make sure that we require all students start at the same time. And again, 8 a.m. is the target start time each day. That gives you 15 minutes to get students settled, get that test session started, and get students logged in. Don't rush it. You have plenty of time built in, but that is our target start time. Once the session is started, make sure that you're recording on the roster what time the test has started, and if you are to stop a test session, you cannot resume it. So let's not do that. If a student needs to take a break to use the restroom, they can pause their test. All the other students can keep on going. Let's see, what's next? Ending a test session. Well, congratulations, you've made it all the way to the end of a test session. Make sure that you're notifying them, hey, we're about to end the test. I think in the script Appendix L, it requires you to do that with 10 minutes left. And students should not test beyond the allotted time unless they have the extended time accommodation, which you will know about. When you do reach the end of the allowable testing time, just click the red stop button next to the session ID. Have students close their Chromebooks. You got to collect all test materials and make sure that you are returning the cell phones and you are facilitating that process. Don't allow them just to grab them and leave, right? And then again, I've already mentioned this, but it is worth mentioning again that students with extended time, if a student has extended time and she is not done at 11 o'clock or whenever your standard testing time is complete, right? That might be before 11 o'clock, it might be a little bit after. Make sure the student does not submit the test, right? Just the student should pause the test, exit out of their testing mode. The test will still be okay. Close the Chromebook and return to the cart in that room. And then we move them to the new testing location where they're going to complete the test with using their extended time. And at that new room, the new TA and proctor will help them get a new Chromebook, sign into a new testing session, and they will pick up with their same test in the same spot. Hey, I appreciate you sticking with me through all that. We appreciate everything that our Worthington staff does for our students. If you have any questions, see me, see the building test coordinator, email us, and we appreciate all that you do. Again, one final reminder, your next steps after listening to this, make sure that you verify your test administrator account. Bookmark that state testing portal, log in. You want to do that on the device that you're going to use for testing day, so that you can just click right on there on the bookmark. Make sure that you write down your password so you're good to go for that. Do the test administrator certification course. It takes you a half hour. Print that off. Print off the acknowledgement form. Turn those both into the BTC. Review the Appendix L before the test day, and you're going to be ready to go. We appreciate it. Don't stress it. We're here to help. Appreciate all you do. Go Worthington.